Welcome to the Charon Files. The stories you are about to hear are testimonies from living witnesses of what moves beyond understanding, of what refuses to be explained. Each of them stood at the edge of what is known and looked into what lies beyond it. My name is Charon, Ferryman of the Dead, the one who waits at that edge. What follows is what they brought back. May they prepare you for your own future encounters. There are places among you that seem to shift, spaces that defy logical navigation or reveal an unseen presence when approached with an open mind. A road that refuses to lead you where it should, a familiar room that becomes alien, a quiet stretch of land that speaks of unseen things. These accounts, like others I have gathered, suggest an unseen intelligence behind such distortions, a force that plays with human perception and intuition. They are testimonies of moments when the very fabric of known reality becomes a labyrinth, designed not to be understood, but merely to be experienced as something deeply, unsettlingly wrong. Chloe, traveling through central Texas, found herself trapped in a tiny town where the path back to the highway remained inexplicably out of reach.
In 2010, I was driving from New Orleans, Louisiana to Eugene, Oregon. It was just me and my 2-year-old pit bull in a 14-foot U-Haul truck with everything I owned crammed into the back, a fancy flip phone, and my print out of MapQuest directions. I think the first smartphones actually came out around that time, but I didn't have one. Cell phone service was also much spottier, and there were long stretches through the desert where I had zero service for hundreds of miles. I was driving a lonely stretch of highway through central Texas when I realized I hadn't seen a town or exit for a very long time, and my giant U-Haul was really low on gas. Just when I'm starting to freak out and seriously run out of gas, I see a small town coming up. I pull into this town, and it is tiny. I was so worried about other things that I never did pay attention to the name of the town, but there were only about 6 streets in the whole place. I go gas up and am ready to get back on the road. Except I cannot, for the life of me, find my way back to the highway. I circle the town about 4 times and start getting so frustrated because this is such a tiny town. How the fuck can I not find my way out? I can literally see the highway but can't get to it. I return to the gas station to ask for directions. Now when I got gas, I paid at the pump and never went in. When I enter for directions, there's a skinny, nondescript guy who has black hair hanging down in front of his eyes that looks like it could use a good wash. He's not particularly creepy, but a little rude. He never really met my eyes. He was looking down at a magazine. He gives me directions that don't sound right at all. He's telling me to take a road that will get me to the highway in about 17 miles. For a moment, I am dumbfounded. Then I point out that I didn't drive that far to get from the highway into town. Why so far to get back to the highway? I can literally see it from the town. He is so casual, almost like I'm just an annoyance and can follow his directions, or not. Why should he care? He gives me some explanation about the road curving around that doesn't really make sense. He still doesn't look at me. Just whatever, I gave you your directions, and waved his hand in the direction of the door. When I got into the parking lot, my whole body started trembling violently, and my heart started racing, seemingly for no reason. I get into the truck, and as soon as I put the key into the ignition, I burst into tears. I had the most terrible feeling that, no matter how nonchalant he acted, this man had bad intentions. I didn't know what, but I knew right then and there that there was no way I was going to follow his directions. Yet this was the only store in this little town, and, short of knocking on doors, there was no one else to ask for directions. I decided I didn't give a shit if this town seemed like something dropped out of the Twilight Zone. I was going to drive around until I found my own way out, even if it took all damn night. Then a big red beater of a pickup truck, as much rust as metal, pulls up and disgorged the quintessential Texan man, huge, husky, and in flannel and work boots. Without even thinking about it, I jumped out of the truck and approached him quickly yet warily. Looking into his eyes, I saw a kind human being, or at least I was hoping I did. I asked him if he could please give me directions to the highway. I told him I knew it was silly, but I just couldn't seem to find my way back. He looked concerned as I was visibly upset, so he made me laugh. and very cheerfully gave me directions for a hairpin curve turnoff right at the end of a small concrete tunnel I had passed several times. He said it often confused travelers because it was so hard to see, they need to put up signs, etc. With a sinking feeling in my stomach, I asked him, how far in miles was it back to the highway? He laughed and gave me a funny look. Miles, miss? I'd say it's a quarter mile at most. You can see the highway right from here. At this point, I couldn't help it. I had to know. What happens if I drive? And I gave him the directions the man in the store had given me. Texas looked at me very intently and asked me how I knew about that route. It was pretty far out and usually only locals know about it. So I told him. He was quiet for a few minutes and then asked what the attendant looked like and if I had a map of the state. No, just my MapQuest, which wasn't helpful in this situation. He goes to his truck and grabs a raggedy local map from his glove box. Spreading it out for me, he traces the route I describe. The way the man from the gas station had told me to go led away from town, away from the interstate, and led to seemingly the middle of nowhere. Texas told me that the road did go about 17 miles right before it dead-ended in the desert. I asked him what was out there, and he told me that it was nothing but some junked cars and a few trailers and mobile homes, all owned by the same family. And the erstwhile clerk was part of this family and lived down that road. I'll never forget the look in Texas's eyes as he told me this. He also told me that I was smart to listen to my instincts, and he told me to be careful traveling out there. I don't know if the man from the gas station wanted what was in the back of my U-Haul or what was in the driver's seat, but thankfully I didn't have to find out. Oh, and I learned that sometimes angels look like ruddy-haired Texans with scruffy faces and rusty pickups. Thank you, random Texan stranger. You really saved my ass, and I will always remember you with tons of love. Sorry I didn't ask your name. You're forever Texas to me now.
Jennifer in Galveston, Texas, encountered a strange heaviness and heard a sound from the dunes at a beach access she had never visited before.
Late last night, my daughter, her friend, and I had spent the evening at a drag show in Galveston, Texas. After the show, we decided to drive down to the beach for a few minutes before we headed home. The beach we usually go to was kind of a far drive from where we were, and it was almost 3 a.m., so we decided to pull into a beach access that we had never been to before. I pulled in and drove around in a circle to shine the headlights in a 360 so we could kind of scope out the area before we got out. I parked next to a trash can, kind of close to the dunes. As soon as we got out of the car, I felt a heaviness, hard to explain, just something felt weird, and my intuition was to get back in the car immediately and leave. I wish I would have. I didn't find out until later that my daughter and her friend had the same feeling. There was no moon, so the only light was from a few beach houses on the other side of the dunes. I keep a huge baton flashlight or taser in my car, so I grabbed it, and we walked down to the water. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I saw my daughter's friend turn around really fast and look back towards the car. She had heard a sound coming from the direction of the dunes. She grabbed my flashlight and pointed it towards my car, and she and I both saw something standing right up against my car. Neither of us were exactly sure of what we were looking at, because it seemed to fade away when the flashlight hit it. It's so hard to describe, but it was like you could only see it in the edge of the light from the flashlight, like it only existed between light and dark. I grabbed the flashlight back and shined it directly where it was standing, and it was gone. Just kind of disappeared. It was very surreal. This heaviness that I felt when we first got there was suddenly unbearable, and we all knew we had to leave as quickly as possible, but we were all kind of frozen in fear. We slowly made our way back to the car, but as we got close, my daughter and her friend saw the same figure crouched down next to the trash can with its back facing them. It was eerily silent as we ran to the car, jumped in, and sped off. It was complete silence in the car for a few minutes until we got down the road a bit. Then I asked if they wanted to talk about what we just saw, and we all just collectively freaked the absolute fuck out, tears and everything. My daughter only saw it from the front for a split second, but her friend and I looked directly at it, and we both described exactly the same thing. Judging by the height of my car, we estimated it to be at least 6 feet 2 inches to 6 feet 5 inches. It was very tall and slim. It had a human shape, but the face was just kind of blank, with 2 black spaces where eyes should be, like the eyes were there, just really sunk in. Its face kind of had the shape of a long Gandalf-type beard, but it was fleshy, not hair. It had really long arms, one of which was resting on the top of my car on the back passenger door. It seemed to be wearing what looked like a robe, but it was part of the creature. Like his flesh was in the shape of long robe sleeves. No hands, just long fleshy flaps. It was just standing there kind of slouching, like it wasn't standing up all the way. And it just stared blankly at us, almost through us. When I say a heavy feeling, we could physically feel some sort of presence as soon as we had gotten there. I personally have never felt so much anxiety, fear, and terror in my life. I have no idea what the fuck we saw, but there is definitely a lingering, wary feeling through my whole body. Since it happened that I can't seem to shake, my daughter says she feels the same way. Every time we talk about it, we get chills. I'm super bad at drawing, but I tried my best to draw what I saw. It was actually a lot thinner. When the light hit it, it was more like it seemed to have some kind of reflective camouflage, that when the light hit it directly, you couldn't see it, but when the light moved away, you could.
And in Sleepy Hollow, New York, James awoke to strange noises in his great-uncle's house. Discovering a familiar space made suddenly unsettling.
I have told this story to no one, except for my family, who get angry every time I bring it up. When I was still in elementary school, me and my family used to spend all summer at my great-uncle's house. Me and my family slept in the same room, except for my sister who'd sleep on a bed in the living room, and my great-uncle who'd sleep in his own room. That one was a pretty normal day. We went to the beach, we ate some pizza, and then, at around 10 p.m., we all went to sleep. At around 4 a.m., I suddenly woke up, because someone was throwing things around in the kitchen. Plastic cups, containers, food, etc. The door was open, so I was able to see the light coming from the kitchen, so when I had enough of all that noise I got up from the bed. At first something seemed off. I thought I was having some sort of strange dream, and as any rational kid would do, I tried to see if I could bend fire like in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Who wouldn't want to firebend, right? I couldn't. I wasn't dreaming. My father wasn't in his bed, but I didn't care much, since maybe he was just in the bathroom. My great-uncle was fairly old, and had trouble sleeping at night, so I thought he just went into the kitchen to get some water. Uncle, are you all right? All this noise woke me up, I said while making my way to the kitchen. To my surprise, the room was empty, but the light was on, and the fridge was open, with a can of Coke laying in front of it. What? I thought. I looked up to the shelf that was to my right, and I saw what was making that noise. Some sort of short creature, around 30 centimeters tall, a gnome you'd say, was looking at me, terrified. He was terrified because I saw him. I thought to myself, he's going to hurt me, better if I fake to faint. And so I did. After a couple of seconds I opened my eyes, and I saw that I wasn't on the kitchen floor anymore. I was in a strange, colorful tunnel. I got scared again and closed my eyes one more time. After a minute that felt like eternity, I reopened them, and I was laying in my bed. There were still sounds coming from the kitchen, but I was scared and just waited for them to stop. And before sunrise, they did. That wasn't the only encounter I had with that dude, but I never saw it again. I'd only hear him, because I was, and am, too scared to see him again. I don't know what he was doing exactly, but I'm sure I wasn't supposed to see him.
The perception of a familiar space made suddenly alien, or a known path obscuring its true direction, speaks to a disquieting truth. The names of the witnesses have been changed to maintain anonymity. If what you have heard tonight mirrors something you have experienced, leave your story in a comment below, and we will include it in a future episode. Don't forget to subscribe. You wouldn't want to miss